What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Says back in the building. Three Jerks present Run TMC Chicago Sports. About to bring you all the latest and greatest information what's going on in the Chicago sports world. I got my guy Marcus in the building. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! And also I got my boy Tim in the building. What's good with y'all? How y'all doing?
Good. How y'all doing today?
Good, man. We good.
Man, I mean it's a lot going on, man. We sort of in that basketball stage right now, making the playoff, if we should make the playoff or not, like that, something like that. It's a lot to talk about, man. We're gonna cover the Bears. Justin Fields, should he start? Because there's a lot of information going out right now if he should start or not. Not quite sure if he should start, and some people say throw him out there, you know. Also, we're about to talk about the White Sox right now, because there's a lot of things going on with the White Sox, with the coaching, not knowing the rules of the game. I really don't know the rules of the game no more, because I mean, all this stuff is going on with because I think he was playing in the National League, so you know, National League pitchers bat up or whatever. So it's kind of like all over the place. Mark, as you a Sox fan, what actually happened? Tim went off, but what actually happened on that situation right there that you recall?
Well, I was watching the game when it happened. I don't think the rulings have much to do with Tony LaRussa being older or detached from the game. Not like this rule is 5 or 6 years old or was implemented when LaRussa retired from the dugout. For one, LaRussa didn't leave the game. He was in the front office of the Angels, so he was very much familiar with the game or any rule change that would have happened. However, these rules have literally, and I mean literally, just been implemented just last season. So it's still very much a new rule. And as long as he was around the game, he knew of these rule changes. Now, that was actually a deeper part of the rule. It's still even hard to interpret right now. But even after the game and the pregame show, the postgame shows, Hall of Famer Frank Thomas and World Series champion again, they even said they didn't know the rules. And they're commentators, so they are just as much as responsible for knowing the game, and even managers, because you have to be able to speak to the rule. So it's not, you should know the rule. Let's be clear. It doesn't matter from a Sox fan or not. You should know the rules, but it's not that embarrassing to not know a rule that you never tread into those waters. And then it's a little bit more intricate than what we think it is. Thinking that you have to put him run on second base and let's just get him in. We got 3 outs to do so. So it's a little bit more complicated than that. So he didn't know the rule, and that's okay. It cost him that game. But you know, I guarantee you, he wasn't the only one that knew the ruling on that, because how many times they get in certain situations where I can't even remember what that ruling was that he needed to know. Even as I speak right now, I can't even tell you that piece of the rule. But I don't think it has anything to do with LaRussa's age, because it's Frank Thomas, again, they didn't know the rule. So it's like I said, it's baseball adjacent. It's not even baseball, man. They're making it up as they go for the sake of let's get the game over with. Right. That's not baseball. Let the baseball game play. Doesn't matter if it takes 8 to 19 innings. This is what, if you don't like it, then leave the ballpark or turn the TV. But let baseball play itself out, because that is exactly that's the polar opposite of what baseball means. When you talk about what pitcher has the lowest ERA, but then you're going to decide the game by putting a runner on second, that's just not acceptable, and that has to change. And if people argue that or show Major League Baseball that they're upset with that, then it's got to change.
Right. What you think, Tim?
You know, coaches make mistakes. You know, I mean, that's the way I look at it. As he is old school baseball as it comes. You know what I mean? So there's not a lot of managers that are in the game today that are old school like LaRussa. You got your Maddens, you got your, a couple of the guys out there, but I'm guaranteeing if you went to every coach in baseball, one point or another this season, they probably forgot that rule and what it was because it is so new, and you're accustomed to building up of, LaRussa's, 77, 80, close to 80. The man's been a part of baseball for 60, 70 years, you know what I mean? Compared to all those other players that have been brought up that have been in this for decades. And you're implementing something new to them where they're accustomed to the old ways of, if we're going extra innings, we're going extra innings. If we're sitting here to the 19th, 20th inning to win a game, that's what we're doing. It costs.
I think we lost him again, Sid.
Okay, he'll come back on.
I think we lost him again.
Yeah. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, here comes Tim right here. Go ahead, finish up, Tim.
Like I was saying, it cost them a game, but the White Sox are still in first place. The Twins are still going to be there. You know what I mean? But it's one game out of 162 that he made a mistake on, and I'm not going to bash it for it and call for his job and be like, he needs to go. Let the man finish the season. Now if that game costs you in the playoffs because of that mistake after a full season, then you have every right to be mad and upset and be like, oh my God, what's going on? But the first part of the season, I really don't even look at it as it was that big of an issue. It being a Cubs fan, it should have been like, well, you guys should have scored more runs and never been in that situation. But it's baseball,
Yeah, even that being said, I mean, even if he did know the rules, somebody on that bench should have known or just spoke out on it as far as like, hey, no, you can't do that, or we should do it like this. And
Right.
it was also brought up that somebody like before the game even start, in certain situations, knowing that you're not playing in your division, not your division, but and you playing in the National League. Yeah, your league. You know what I'm saying? These are the rules. Let's go over the rules just in case some type of scenario happen. So we go extra endings. You know what I'm saying? So those are things that people say that they should have at least talked about, but we don't know if they talked about them or not. But evidently they didn't because nobody seems to know the rules or whatever. So like you said, Frank Thomas said he didn't know it. Because that's not our really job. That's their job to know, but they just talking off the top like we doing because I don't know the rules. So they just, like you said, I think they making up certain things as they go as well. So
I guarantee you, Sid, that and again, I know this sounds biased coming from my perspective of liking the Sox, but I think we lost Tim again, but he'll probably just keep popping in and out. But I know this sounds biased, but I guarantee you that Tony LaRussa will lose more games with just basic decisions he makes as far as keeping a pitcher in longer or not putting a DH in or something like that. He'll lose more games on the course of this year than he will not knowing the rules. So managers have a percentage of games that they actually lose just by decisions that they make. So not to blow it out of perspective, but kind of keep it in a certain perspective. He lost the game. Since then, they won 7 out of the last 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're in good shape. Those things happen, even though they shouldn't happen. Again, he'll lose just games on a regular with that coaching decision. So so it has its place. Knowing the rules has a perspective. So they moved on for it, and they recovered nicely.
Yeah, it's a learning process because going through it now. They won't go through it. They won't have that problem again. So, it's good to have this problem early in the season, more so late in the season where it really costs you. You know what I'm saying? So, and that being said, your pitchers is pitching good. The Sox pitching real good. But you lose your heavy hitters or whatnot. Is there a player out there that the Sox may be looking at that you heard that they may be trying to go after? Anybody that you see out there that he probably feel real good. We already know you said you don't want them to make a play for Chris Bryant, but I don't know why. But
I think that the perfect marriage. Here's the thing. And I have to say this diplomatically, so you won't think I'm gloating or anything. But I spoke to this before the season started that the White Sox have the necessary depth to still compete. Now they're getting thinner. With Luis Robert being out and Eloy Jimenez. So that's a lot of home runs, a lot of rebounds that's out right now. But this is where you credit a guy like Rick Hahn or Kenny Williams, where your man Mercedes came out of nowhere, and he's probably doing better than what either of those guys would have been doing up to this point, right? I mean, you can actually say that he is the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year. It's crazy. That was like a diamond in the rough. We found him. So it's not that urgent right now, because on the other side of that coin, sound like Robert De Niro and Heat, there's another side of that coin. And that is our pitching. Our pitching right now as a staff is lights out. Just on this current road trip, we gave up 4 runs on a 5-game road trip. And one of them was an extra innings when we lost 1-0. And we split that decision. And I said before, only in this Major League Baseball can we split a series by losing the second game 1-0. So you got guys that's throwing shutout ball and giving up 1 run, and with the pitching, you're going to win this division with pitching, cumulatively, or in addition to with the hitting. But right now, the pitching is going to have to carry us, and that's what they've been doing right now, man. They stepped it up in the field with leather. These guys are catching the ball, and they're pitching. And in the last 2 games, they've averaged 9 runs a game. So they're kind of turning it on, and we're a long ways. The White Sox are a long way from. They got guys like the reigning MVP, Jose Abreu, who's batting like 198. He's not even turning it on yet. So they'll get to the point. And Jose Abreu historically always starts off. So they'll be fine. And then when they get guys back, that's when you have to say, okay, now they have everybody back. They're ready. And all this is going on while the Twins are 7 games behind us. So there is a little pillow there. So I think that makes us okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, we'll see what happens, because, I mean, if Tony LaRussa goes out the excuse me. Thank you. If Tony LaRussa goes out the Pujols, what you think about that?
He's just an extra bat. He's not going to beat Albert Pujols of the Cardinals. Well, why not? I mean, if we need him to DH in the American League ballpark, something like that.
About to say DH, I think he'll be good to DH. And then if you want to give your first baseman a little break or whatever, he still can play first base. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he's everyday first baseman, but he could be one of those players. I mean, because you guys got the center fielder, what is it, Billy? What's that guy's name? Because he played with the Cubs last year.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah. Billy Hamilton.
Yeah,
Hamilton.
Yeah, because I mean that dude can't hit for nothing, but he can run. He's a good base runner. You know what I'm saying?
That's the only reason why he's out there. But yeah, right. I mean, Pujols will be okay, but it wouldn't be long term. It'll be a Band-Aid, Yeah.
Well, let's get back. Let's get to the Cubs. Let's get a little bit of the Cubs. There's not that much going on with the Cubs once again. The best are starting to heat up. In the beginning of the season, they was really looking real bad as far as the batting average and getting runs and stuff like that. But now I think it's starting to heat up. The fans are back in the building. They let them in slowly but surely. They be in the building. I wanted to talk a little bit about Chris Bryant, because Chris Bryant back has been off the chart. You know what I'm saying? He's looking like the Chris Bryant of old. That's what I was wondering. I mean, when you said you didn't want the Sox to get him, I was like, what? I mean, you try to get, but it's all about what you got to give up to get him too. So, I mean, and he's probably a rental, so we don't know if he want to stay with the Sox or not. So, but this guy is playing like the Chris Bryant of old. Batting wise, he's playing all over the field: third, center, left, right, first. I mean, what is this guy worth if he keep this up? Let's start with you, Tim.
Oh man, it's definitely it's the old adage in any sport. It's that contract year. So you're gonna get a player to ball out, and it's Chris Bryant's putting up the numbers to make it worthy of keeping him. Yes. Is there someone out there that can probably replace him? Unless, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Fernando Tatis or Jr. or, someone's coming through that door. But the guy I wanted last year was Nolan Arenado, and he's now with the Cardinals. But I think you got to keep Chris Bryant. I think you got to keep Anthony Rizzo. You got to keep Javi Baez and, possibly Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
But I think that you have to make the contracts friendly enough to keep all those guys happy, because those are your core unit guys, and they're still young, and they're still going to, give you a good 6-7 years worth of service.
Yeah.
I think that you re-sign them, you get all those guys to work whatever contracts you can, and you go after pitching. That's the biggest thing is with the Cubs is they've been known to plug and play guys all over the place and still make it a decent team. What he's worth, he's definitely not worth Bryce Harper money or something like that. He's not worth that, but I think he comes up there easily. I want to say maybe in the 175 million maybe range, maybe like a 10-year deal, 175 million, something like that. But I'm not expecting him to be like 300 million over, some odd year. I think that's just he hasn't proved it every year to be that type of ball player. The last 2 years he was awful. And if you're going to be consistent, then that's where you deserve the big numbers and the big contracts.
Well, and also, and he's not. Well, I think he's maybe 27. I want to say.
Yeah,
27. So he's not gonna get that Tatis money like 300 million. You know what I'm saying? Because Tatis about 22, 24, 22, something like that. So I mean, you look at the age, and you look at the when Chris Bryant fell off or whatever. You gotta look at that too, because is he putting up these numbers because it's a contract year? You know what I'm saying?
And he's also injury prone. You know what I mean? That's another thing that figures into a contract is, are you going to get this guy that's able to fulfill a 7 to 10 year contract without him being hurt and sitting out and missing days on the DL? You never know, but I think they keep resigns with the Cubs, and I think they keep that nucleus and they build from there. You know what I mean? Like baseball is, give or take, where you'll get guys that produce for 10 to 15 years. But every year you got guys coming into their farm system that are just waiting to be brought up. So,
right. So, I mean, Marcus, like I said, I know you know how the big fan, but I mean, baseball. So, I mean, what type of player like Chris Bryant, and because you watch him sometimes just to gloat or whatever. if he continue to do what he's doing now, what do you think that his price tag would be?
Well, I've said from the beginning of the season that this season will be contingent on whether Bryant and Baez can return, and I maintain that if they can return to form, they'll be competitive. Even though the Cardinals are doing also what I expect them to do, because they were competitive last year, and now those young guys have gotten a little bit further along. But if Baez and Bryant continue to play well, the Cubs will be competitive. However, that's a good thing. It's not regardless what happens to Bryant. If he continues to play well, and even if the team doesn't, that's still a good thing, because here's the big picture, and this is what happens in baseball. By the trade deadline, there's this thing in baseball that is notoriously called waving the white flag. If the Cubs are not contending, say if you look up and say, hey, you know what, Cardinals are 12, 14 games ahead of us, we're not going to catch them. Then you have Chris Bryant that is playing well, and you can get a huge haul for Chris Bryant. Like Tim said, there are guys every year that are dynamic, that's coming out of colleges in these farm systems that you could trade for. That's how we got Juan Moncada. And we traded a guy like Tatis away. People don't know that. But, I mean, you can get huge hauls back for a guy like Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant just could be a contender like the Mets, and just be waiting to get Chris Bryant. And they just throw them a boatload of talented prospects. Now, again, this is if the Cubs look up and say, you know what, the Cardinals, we're not going to catch them. We're too far behind. But on the plus side, Bryant and or Baez, they're playing great.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this is going to depend on your pitching and what your bullpen is going to do. It's not just is Bryant playing well. That's not going to keep you in divisions. You have to click on all cylinders. So if the pitchers are not there and those guys are playing good, you know that their stock is up. You can get a huge haul back in that farm system, man. And that's how you built in 2016. Well, a few years before that. That's how the White Sox are doing it now. That's the baseball way. That's the Minnesota Twins way. I hate to say that. That's the Cardinals way. That's the Packers way. You got some teams that develop players through the draft or through farm systems. Not your Cowboys or not your Yankees. They elite. Those respective leagues are their minor leagues. Like the Yankees, the major leagues is their minor league. They buy your player. Cowboys, they have the money to get to. So when you're small market teams, like the White Sox. Unfortunately, they're in Chicago, but they're small markets, so they have to build through the minor league system, and
Right.
this might be the haul that you're looking for. So it's not all bad if the Cubs don't contend. They have some valuable pieces that they can trade off.
Right. And and like Tim said, I mean, the core that you got, you're gonna spend that money somewhere. At least you know what the players you got. You can spend that money with the players you got. Because what else? What other free agent or talent that's out there that you're trying to bring? What you already probably have. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I hope they keep like the Baez, the Rizzos, you know what I'm saying? Those key players, whatever. And like you said, in the offseason, just pick if they get one or two starting pitcher, I think they good. I mean, because the bullpen is actually doing okay, you know what I'm saying? But you don't want to. The pitching is everything, but pitching's not like they used to be neither. That they not pitching complete games like they used to. You know what I'm saying?
Speak on what you're, and again, to add on to what you're saying with the White Sox with these injuries, they have as a team the lowest ERA at 2.66 right now. So I just want to make that point about how pitching and hitting are both synonymous with each other. You have to have both of them. So yeah I mean, you got to perform on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I mean, the season is still young, and I think Cubs are 2.5 behind. Sox is running in the first place, so we'll just see how. I mean, the Cubs I think I think they 2.5 behind, under 500 by a game or whatever. But Sox is like what they 18-13. I want to say.
Sox 19-13. Cubs are at 500, so they're not below.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, like I said, when July come around, that's when we'll know where you at. You know what I'm saying? That's where you start breaking up the team and stuff like that. Let's go into the Bears. I got a clipping because the big news right now is not even the big news. The more controversy news that's going on with the Bears is starting the quarterback. Should he start and stuff like that? Matt Nagy was on ESPN, The Herd, about a week ago, you know what I'm saying? And I want to play a clip and I want to get you guys' opinion on it. So let me go ahead and cue it up and hold on one second. Let me cue that up. Because when I saw it, I was like, that's kind of interesting. Let me see. Put it in. Let me take us out right quick.
Psychologically, you get into a season, you're 4-4, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm in a battle here. God, I love my job. My family loves Chicago. Is there a little psychology with you got to win in Chicago now? And how do you reconcile that with, is Justin ready? Is he not? We got to win. My job's on the line. That's a real pressure, right? That's real, right?
No doubt about it. And I think that is why I'm in this position. And the one thing that Ryan and I and myself, because I'm in that during the season, it's going to be myself making the decision, is you understand that whatever decision is made, it's not going to be made because of Matt Nagy. It's not going to be made because of Ryan Pace. It's going to be made because of it's best for the Chicago Bears organization and it's best for Justin Fields. And so I think we all of us live in that instant gratification world where everything, we want it to happen right away, right now. But there's so many steps that go into this process of making sure that we do this thing the right way with Justin, for Justin, and for the Chicago Bears. I feel very confident in the coaches that we have around us to be able to develop him with a great strategy of things that we've done in the past and things that we're going to change moving forward this year with that. But we got to make sure that we all understand if and when that time does come for Justin to be ready, and we don't know how that may happen, that he is ready. Because the worst thing we can do is put him in when he's not ready and ruin him, and which ruins the Bears. And so we want to make sure that we do this so that he has a very successful entry into this league. He plays with confidence. He's a winner, which he's always been. And then ultimately, in the end, he's the best thing for the Chicago Bears, plain and simple.
Yeah, I'm watching him run around. He can really run. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to be a coach and have a guy that can run around and do some things nobody else in the league can do. It's great seeing you. You know, I'm in Chicago here in a couple of weeks. You could do worse than take me to dinner. That would not be worse.
we got to make it happen.
Man, if Colin Cowherd is in Chicago, let's go get him and jump him.
I agree with you on that.
I can't hear you say it. I think we got some technical problems.
No, I had it on mute. I had to get myself on mute.
Okay.
That being said, I mean, what y'all just heard about Justin Fields being coming in starting or the right timing. I know you guys were saying 7 games that he probably should come in or whatever, but my whole thing, because I just read something also that they in win mode round now. So is Andy Dalton that quarterback that put them there? Because like I said, he was a second string quarterback for Dallas, and then when he did get a chance to play, he didn't perform well to me. You know what I'm saying? They didn't make the playoff, and right now the way the Bears division is, what Roger will know what's going on with that. They in a right a good position. So that being said, what you just heard from Nagy, what y'all take from his comments? We could go Tim.
I agree with Matt Nagy, and I agree because Marcus brought it up last week when he said, you know, and Matt Nagy basically said is you don't want to put the kid in day one and ruin his confidence. And you know that's a big thing in the NFL is the confidence factor. Is I think that right now, depending on what Aaron Rodgers does, let's say Aaron Rodgers, you know, gets traded out of the division. I think right now still we have a better chance of winning the division with Andy Dalton starting and seeing how it plays out. You know, yeah, he was on Dallas with a lot more weapons than what we have here. But you also got to remember last year they didn't have practices, you know, and able to get guys together because of the whole COVID thing. I think if you give him the chance to work with this offense and see what he's capable of doing, and to at the same time bring along Justin Fields and show him the way, teach him the way to do it, I think you got to go through preseason in those 3 games to see where both quarterbacks sit at to make that decision. And also, the Bears got a hell of a lot better defense than the Dallas Cowboys. So we've seen in the past that if you can put up 17 to 20 points with this defense, you can win a lot of games. Again, if Aaron Rodgers gets traded out of Green Bay, we can win the division with Andy Dalton. You know what I mean? Because Minnesota is horrible with Cousins. They're not going to do anything to get better. Jared Goff is garbage. And you're going to put Jordan Love at the quarterback with up in Green Bay. But again, you can remember, you lose Aaron Rodgers, you're going to piss off some of those receivers, aka Devontae Adams. You know, because now he's with a new quarterback, and now his timing is completely off compared to a guy he's been playing with for the last 5 years. And Devontae Adams has become one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL. And that's just not because he's got any quarterback back there. He's got Aaron Rodgers, and every day you hear it more and more. Aaron Rodgers wants out. And I wouldn't be surprised that long before that, you're hearing Devontae Adams say the same thing. Like, hey, I'm not feeling it here no more. So, but I agree with Nagy. I think you have to bring him along slowly that's what's best for the Chicago Bears and us as Bears fans. Yeah, we all 3 of us here want to see him going out there day one, lighting up the scoreboard. But again, you can't ruin the confidence, because I think that's what they did with Trubisky, putting him in way too early and him not adapted to it. And, you know, he didn't have the chance to sit behind a decent quarterback because Mike Glennon was just god awful.
Well, but that being said, I'm gonna get to you, Marcus. But with Trubisky, it was a little bit different because, he wasn't the star on his college team. This guy Justin Fields got some legs and got everything. He got everything that you want. I mean, and he was playing in big games. I mean, Trubisky wasn't playing in big games like this guy, so it's a little bit different. You know, but what you think about it, Mark? What you think?
Well, I would say it's only different with Trubisky in that he came in like his 4th game or something like that. even though he didn't have college reps. The bigger part of Trubisky was the not having offensive line or the offensive coaching carousel. Nobody was steadily in place for him to develop like he needed to develop because he could run. Mitch can run. His greatest problem was going through his reps and his accuracy. So he was never able to develop that because I think the no offensive coach. But getting back to Justin Fields, I think we're beating the dead horse with this. This is a we want it now world. Doesn't matter whether it's social media, our internet speed, or a paycheck, whatever it is. We want it now. We got a guy. I mean, how many people out there want to see Justin Fields on day one, having never had a franchise? Exactly, having never had a franchise quarterback in our lifetime.
Right.
Cutler was, but he couldn't get out the way himself, and we didn't have another offensive coaching carousel and no offensive line. That could have been better, but now we have this guy who is the quintessential protege. This is what you want. When you're even if we had the number one pick, I think most of us still would have been okay with Justin Fields, right? So we got our guy. So now the question is, do you put him out there since we haven't had a guy in forever, or do you be super cautious and let him develop? And again, there's no better example. We could talk for days, for weeks. There's no better example than Aaron Rodgers, who took 3 years to get in there. Now, Aaron Rodgers could have played sooner. Absolutely, because he's a heady guy. But they brought him along, and they had the luxury of Brett Favre and under the tutelage of that, and he was learning even more. Mm-hmm. But once he got out there, it was like seamless transition. This guy was a stud. So there's something to be said for letting a guy develop and watch. That's one part of it. Then there's another part of it where his confidence isn't shaken or rattled, because as we also touched on last week, you are in a league with guys who on defense that are way larger than you that you just cannot outrun. It's a different speed of the game. So you don't want to rock that confidence. And then the third part of that is you don't want him to get hurt. That's the last thing you want to happen. You get this guy hurt, then you got enough. Say it. You still haven't forgiven Tibbs for Rose getting hurt. Although I think that wasn't necessarily a Tibbs thing, but you would want to assassinate Matt Nagy if this guy got out there in the first game and was running around like he was running for his life and he got hurt. So let's pump the brakes. Like Colin Cowherd said, he said maybe if they're 4-4, that's 8 games. So we said about 7 games. If you need to make the change, then do it, but you still got to bring them along slowly. This is our franchise quarterback. Bears may or may not be picked to win it this year anyway. So there's no rush, even though it's a win-now league. One thing about it is, even if we don't win in this 2-3 window that we have with this defense, Justin Fields is young enough for you still acquire other pieces, and you can still have your franchise quarterback in place and rebuild. So it's not necessarily done when the defense is old. Right. We have to pump the brakes.
Okay, I mean, I just hate to put a good quarterback on the shelf like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like I said, Rodgers was one of the first, and he wasn't a top 10. This guy's like right there. You know what I'm saying?
But don't look at him as put him on a shelf. Maybe look at it as he's in the incubator. He hasn't hatched yet. You gotta look at it that way. He has more of his career in front of him.
Yeah, you gotta look at so many examples about quarterbacks being brought along slowly that have dominated the game. Perfect example is Patrick Mahomes. He sat 1 year behind Alex Smith. And Alex Smith is not the greatest quarterback in the league and didn't have the luxury like Aaron Rodgers had with Brett Favre. But he learned. It took a year to learn the system. But what they did was they knew at the end of the season, I think it was like he started the last game of the season, to give him that, hey, and they put him in sparingly here and there to get him accustomed to the speed of the game. And look what happened in year 2. Guy comes out slinging 50 touchdowns. We're like, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah. Right. Well, also in that footage that I didn't play, but on that same footage, they mentioned about even though he's not starting, he could come in certain situations, like third down situations, or like just bring him in, bring him out, like they like at the red zone or whatever. You can always put him in. It ain't like just because he's not starting don't mean he's not he's not playing. You know what I'm saying? So that did come up, and then Nagy said that's something to think about. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, because if he gets hurt, I'm telling you right now, I'm probably one of the first people down there with any other Bears fans that are trying to look for Nagy and Ryan Pace. like, come on now, like we finally got a quarterback where you can sit there and say we haven't had a quarterback since Sid Luckman, which was way back in the day before all of us. Yeah. And we finally get a franchise quarterback because besides, like Marcus said, but since Jay Cutler and he couldn't get past himself, we haven't had a franchise quarterback where we've drafted a franchise quarterback. We thought we had one in Rex Grossman and Kyle Orton and now Trubisky and Cade McNown and all those guys. But this guy is the equivalent. When you say quarterback, you know, the two people that come to mind in this draft is Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. They were always 1 and 2 back in high school and in college. And you got a guy who dropped down that has a chip on his shoulder. And look at the chip on the shoulder Patrick Mahomes had for going so low in the draft. I think he was picked 10th. Yeah. He made everybody feel that. And I remember when he came into Chicago and he did this, when he scored that touchdown and held up the 10. And that was a Ryan Pace pick. First off, Trubisky, because we had John Fox that year. This is a Matt Nagy pick. Like Matt Nagy did pick Patrick Mahomes. This is a Matt Nagy pick, and I think this bought Matt Nagy one more year to let this kid grow. And I think if even if you know we don't do what we do and he doesn't get to play this year, I think Ryan Pace is gone. Yes, but I think Matt Nagy earned himself 1 year because he's the one that went and looked at this kid. He's the one that talked to this kid at the pro days. Yeah. So I think if you give Matt Nagy with his offense and a time to get what we have here, because look, there's already videos of him throwing the ball with the Chicago Bears receivers. And we're not talking about rookie receivers. We're talking about Marcus Goodwin, Allen Robinson, you know, Mooney and Miller, who might be traded still. But he's out there with these guys already gaining that confidence with them. And that's what's important is for him to learn with them to say, okay, hey, you know, because now you're getting real receivers. This ain't college ball where, you know, you run a 4.4 and you're beating half a secondary. There's a DB running 4.3 that can stay with you, but now you're getting timing down. And I think that's what the most important thing is, and that we have to bring him along slowly.
Well, I'm cool with that. And I'm also, if they go that route, I wouldn't mind them doing the bring him in on certain situation, second down or third down plays, you know, so that you throw the other team off. They, you know, some trickery plays like the Saints be doing, you know what I'm saying? So I'm cool with that, you know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. And it's funny that you mentioned about the dude, the receiver from the Green Bay. It said he's rethinking his future with the Green Bay if Rodgers is gone. So something to think about too. So we'll just see what happens with the Bears.
He's always welcome in Chicago. We have a number 17 available for you.
To trade him up. So let's go into the last segment, which would be the Chicago Bulls, who's actually trying to still play to get in the what they call this thing, what they calling this? It's not the playoffs.
The play-in. The play-in.
It's the play-in. So I mean, I posed this in a group. Do we want them to make it and get in a play-in? I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, because I got my opinions. I want to hear you guys' thoughts first.
I would say yeah, because if this is what's going to be the norm for the next, you know, whatever years from basketball, I think you have to get that playoff experience, that atmosphere. You know what I mean? Like do or die. I think this improves the guys that much better for going into the next season because it makes you hungrier. You know what I mean? You got your little taste of trying to get into the playoffs. It's going to make you rethink a lot. And it's going to make you go into the offseason. Like when we watched the Bulls thing, Jordan said after they lost to the Pistons, they were in the weight room, hitting the weight room to get better, to go back and beat Detroit. And I think that this would be if the Bulls get in that situation where they lose the playing game to whoever. And I think that's going to get Levine and those guys to say, hey, we got work to do. And let's get in. And I think that that's where it builds up character and the confidence for these guys to say, hey, we made this run, we got in, but we fell a little bit short. What can we do to get better to make it full in next year?
Yeah, I mean, what you think, Marcus? What you prefer to make the playoff, or just let's go ahead and see if we can get that top fourth pick between fourth pick?
Well, when you pose the question, do we want the Bulls to get in the playoffs versus in a higher pick? I answered, yes, I want them to get in the playoffs because they're a young team. Being in the playoffs is always good. And then I said, do they deserve to get in the playoffs? Probably not. But I had to reevaluate that answer because if you look at even before the trade, the Bulls had turned the culture around in this team. They were everything was looking up.
Mhm.
So you have to give them a bit of a mulligan or give them some slack, even though you traded for better players. And I just happen to think that this team with the preseason training camp, they come into next season much better chemistry wise, knowing their roles. Daniel Tice being a great defender, Thaddeus Young being a great ball distributor, and that veteran presence. They're much better next year than they are right now. And then, so you hit that setback when they got there. So they lost like 5 straight games. Could have played better ball, but they were adjusting to playing with each other.
Yeah.
Then Zach goes down for about 9 or 10 games. They lose a ton of those games. So, and then there was even a game or two where Zach and Vooch were out. So they were not tanking, or they wasn't playing to the point where they just were playing uninspired. They were hounded by those injuries, in addition to adjusting to 4 or 5 new guys at the trade deadline. So, and they're still in the thick of it, of making the play-in. So every game from here on out is the Bulls playoffs. Any combination of a Bulls loss and is it Washington or Indiana?
Washington, Indiana. Yeah.
Yeah, any combination of Bulls loss and Indiana win, it's over. So they have to win out. It's going to be incredibly tough because you have 2 games against the Nets, 1 against the Bucks. So you have to run the table against that, or Indiana has to stay perfect as well. But like Tim said, this is going to inspire them to come back next year. Hey, we were right there. So we need to stay in the gym, hit the weights, off-seed acquisition here, mainly a point guard. Point guard that's going to score at least 13 points a game, average like 8 or 9 assists. That guy doesn't have to be a superstar. He just has to play in the system. He has to be serviceable. He doesn't have to be great. We can always use Derrick Rose, of course, and I know you're gonna touch on that. But yeah, the Bulls are not far, man. I like this team. They just have to regroup. They have to figure it out. That's the thing with them.
Yeah, because I mean, when I posed it up, do they deserve it? And then I had to think about it. I said, I don't think I can't say that they don't deserve it because of the COVID stuff, the injuries that they had or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. I think if they went out, oh yeah, they deserve it because they balled out, and it's like things are starting to come together. Kobe White starting to play good basketball, you know what I'm saying? So, and then that brings me to this. We just talked about the point guard position. I mean, if he continue to play like this, if these next 3 games, if he continue to do what he's doing now, do we still need a starting point guard, or could we rely on Kobe to be that future point guard, but bring a point guard in there as a veteran, like a Derrick Rose or whatever, to fill that role of being a mentor to him to keep it going? Because do we let Rose start? You know what I'm saying? So it's more like, because people mention Michael Conley from Utah, but fan favorite, man, I think I'm still going with Rose. But if Kobe White continue to do what he do we still look at Lonzo Ball, because he's gonna come in thinking he's gonna start? You know what I'm saying? With Derrick Rose, he could start or he could come off the bench, because right now he's running for like the 6th man of the six man of the year. You know what I'm saying? So what route would you go? Would you sign Derrick to either start or come off the bench, or do you go after Lonzo Ball? But it's all depending on what Kobe White does. You know what I'm saying? But talking about point guard, what you think they should do at the point guard? Let's start with you, Marcus, then we go to you, Tim.
Oh, okay. I would go at the Ball. He fits the defense. He fits this the starting five. You have a guy like Vooch, who's averaging 25 points a game. Zach averaging 27 points a game. You need, and then you got Patrick Williams, who I still think is going to be great in this league. You got enough scoring. You just need another guard that's going to score 14, 15 points and just pass the ball. And I think the ball is perfect for that. Now, that being said, who don't want a guy off the bench like Kobe White? At some point, maybe he'll want to start, but then you'll probably just have to trade him and get some pieces back. If he comes to the point where he's a starter, if he comes to that, we need more of a sample size where he's good as a starter and not just a game here or a game there. He's played well in the last few games, but we need a consistent stretch of games where we can say, you know what, we have definitively forgotten about Ball. We're going to go with Kobe White. I have not seen that yet. We know the kid can shoot, but that is the type of shooting that we need off the bench in any microwave Johnson fashion. We need that Ben Gordon fashion. That's what we need. But right now, I like him off the bench with Thaddeus Young. That's a great unit. We want to keep some depth on the bench. So you go out there. If you can get a guy like Ball, and that's who you get. He's a starter in this league. He's a pure point guard. That's what you want because you got enough scoring around Ball if you can acquire him. You got scoring off the bench if you can bring Kobe White off the bench. So I say go after Ball. If Kobe is happy off the bench, let him stay there. But I haven't seen a big enough sample size for him to actually be the starter now. I used to think he could be starter, but I'm off that train now.
What you got, Tim?
I agree with you 100%, Marcus, on that. That he hasn't shown all season that, hey, I can be that guy. He did the same thing last year. He started off hot, and then he went cold, and then he at the end of the season, he went hot again. To take him the last couple of games of the season to catch on and to start, showing what you can do, doesn't show you a lot that you should be considered a starter. Could it be confidence is hurt because he was promised it and he didn't get it? Don't know. But in the NBA, it's all about showing consistency night in and night out. Like, you're going to have your back-to-back games and a series of them down the road where you're going to be leaned on heavily because, injuries, Levine wasn't there. Like now, if the last 10 games, if, Kobe White was dropping 20 a game with Vujacic, then we could have sat there and be like, let's maybe think about it in the offseason. But,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I agree. I think Lonzo Ball fits exactly what they're trying to do. I think I just heard recently something about Derrick Rose wants to come back to Chicago.
Yeah.
So, does it happen? I think that if you get one of those two guys, you start them. And I think Kobe needs to accept it that, hey, listen, you're still a part of this franchise and you may be the future, but you need to learn some things first. And it's the tutor. It's just like how we're talking about with Justin Fields sitting behind, Dalton and them. Is you get these guys in here, the Derrick Roses and the Balls, they understand the game, they play the game the right way, and they can teach him. So when their time is up, here we go. We got a kid that we drafted that he can play the point guard position and he can put points on. But I also agree. I like him coming off the second unit with Thaddeus Young. They work so well together on how they do things, and especially with him and Thies, those three together, I like that unit. I think they need to add a couple more pieces to that unit that can get them some scoring besides Kobe White. You know what I mean? Because that's going to make that team that even more dangerous. And then the couple of guys you have behind that coming off the bench, not bad. It's a start, but I think you need to go get a point guard and get rid of Felicio.
Well, he's going to be gone anyway, regardless.
Yes.
But here's the thing, though. If you get Ball, you may not have Daniel Tice or Thaddeus Young because they don't have what Ball is asking for. He may be like $20 million a year, so you gotta have to cut ties with one or the other because Thaddeus Young is getting $10 million. It's a team option, but then Daniel Tice, I mean, he's a free agent, so he probably. You give him that contract with Felicio or whatever, but still now your money's starting to trickle down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's why I was more like into the Derrick Rose thing because he's not going to cost you what the 20 million. You know what I'm saying? And then you could still get someone else besides the Daniel Tice. You could add another player to that mix. But I propose, I mean, you could trade Kobe White and Markkanen to get Ball, and then you still get Derrick Rose. That'd be a good move to make. You know what I'm saying?
That'd be nice. But again, as Lonzo Ball, you're not worth $20 million a year. First off, I don't.
He's a ball. He's a ball.
He can ball, but you haven't been in the playoffs.
No. What I mean by that is his dad. He's a ball. That dude.
Oh yeah, his dad's gonna ask for the world because he thinks he can beat Michael Jordan. Okay, dreaming somewhere. But in reality, you're not worth $20 million a year. You're not a CJ McCollum. You're not a Dame Time. You're not a Steph Curry. You're not none of those guys. You are, if you really look at it, you're the lower tier point guards. I don't think you're worth more money than Spencer Dinwiddie, who hasn't played all season. Wow. I don't think you're better than Kyle Lowry, who's a starter over there in Toronto. These are guys that have seasoned veterans that have played the game and understand the game. Just like Markkanen, you're not worth $20 million. You haven't shown the consistency night in and night out to get that kind of money. And same thing with Lonzo Ball. He's had off nights, and if you were that guy – now, if he was like putting up numbers and doing things like Ja Morant, then I can say you're worth $20 million, but you're not do that. Yeah. I think that's where it hurts him because of his dad, but I wouldn't mind doing a sign and trade deal with Markkanen for him.
Yeah. But I don't think, I mean, and I think the Pelicans would be good with that because look what happened right now. Zion Williams is out, you know what I'm saying? So with a player like Markkanen, he could have just stepped in and played that play. He could play that role, but not play that like Zion. But you still got somebody to come in and cover for him.
And I think you have to bring back Thies, and I think you have to bring back Thaddeus because Thaddeus Young is that guy that's been in an NBA Finals. He's been in the playoffs. He's teaching these young guys well. They're all playing. They're flying to the ball. And he's making the right decisions. And Thies defensively is that guy that comes off the bench that you need the backup of Vujacic. That's going to be a rim protector, going to do the dirty work and grab rebounds. And hell, the guy can shoot too. So, and especially with him and Kobe Young and Thaddeus, I think that second unit is strong with those three. I just think you need to add one or two pieces to that second unit. And the Bulls are going to be one tough team especially if they get a point guard to go starting five. That's tough.
I mean, you signed Tice back. Do you guys start Tice? I mean, because at that point, I mean, unless they get somebody in free agency or whatever, if they're not able to get Ball or whatever, now you got money to play with. Like I said, the Derrick Rose, and you could get you a quality power forward, or do you move? It's a lot of movement they could do, man, because you could actually put Williams at the 4. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of stuff that's going on. It's kind of hard to say until the season actually over with. I mean, Marcus, what you got? I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard to say because, like Tim said, Derrick Rose said he want to come back to Chicago in so many ways, but he can't say it too much now because they still playing. He's still playing in New York, and they balling, and he got them balling. But what you thinking?
If you could bring Rose back here, by all means. I mean, I just don't. Look, Derrick Rose is still my favorite player in the game, and he probably will be until he retires. However, AK Arturas Karnisovas just strikes me as a guy who he doesn't have that same Derrick Rose sentiment as Chicago or even Paxson had. They're like, hey, that ship is gone. Yeah. We're not Derrick Rose guys. We don't care about him growing up on the streets. We don't care about that. We don't have that, bring him back to Chicago type thing. AK likes players from overseas. He likes the unsung hero. He likes players that you got to develop, players that he know that can be developed, and bring them here. And I mean, that's the AK way. Nobody thought that Denver would be good, but look at Patrick Williams. And I want to talk about Patrick Williams. I think that's a good segue. Yeah. Patrick Williams was he was an Arturas Karnisovas guy, and Patrick Williams right now, 19 years old, averaging 9 points, 4.6 rebounds per game. You can look at that and you can say, oh man, what are we really? Is he going to turn that corner? Is he going to be good? What do we have in Patrick Williams? We see the athletic ability. Sometimes he's timid. Does he have enough confidence? But here's the biggest stats when talking about Patrick Williams. 7.9 points, 5.1 rebounds game. You say, wait, why are you giving me those numbers, Marcus? You just told me he averages 9 points and 4.6 rebounds a game. Because those are not his numbers. Those are Kawhi Leonard's numbers as a rookie. His numbers were not as good as Patrick Williams' numbers. Patrick Williams is an inch bigger and weighs is just a bigger person. Now, I'm not saying that Patrick Williams is going to be Kawhi Leonard. Can he? Can he be? Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's going to take time. You are 19 years old. You cannot, unless you're LeBron James, and everybody knows that he's a unicorn. You're not going to get that. LeBron was a generational player, transcendent.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get that every time. So when you got a guy like Patrick Williams, you see the tools. When you're 19 years old, you have to grow into confidence. You have to grow into swag. You have to become a dog. Like Zach. Zach stayed in the gym. They have to put Zach out of the gym. Zach stayed in the gym. Patrick Williams has to get some of that. The tools are there. I don't say panic. Don't push the panic button. Let him play. The playing time is good. He knows. Look at Jimmy Butler. 2 points a game his first year with the Bulls. You have to let guys develop. And that's what Arturas Karnisovas is about. And that's probably why Derrick Rose won't come back. I don't think he's subscribed to the Derrick Rose fairy tale. Would I love to see him back? Yes. But getting back to Patrick Williams, I think he's a work in progress. And imagine once he becomes that guy, 23 points per game, and you still got Zach there, and you have Vooch there.
Yeah.
It's going to be scary.
Yeah, and you said, by you just saying that, me thinking about the Bulls not having a point guard, I think not having a point guard is actually hurting him now. I mean, it's not making him get what we think he should be doing, because you get Zach LaVine the ball, Zach LaVine going for his. But if you get a point guard that's going to set everything up, that's where he probably develop into that player that we think he should be. You know what I'm saying? So a good point guard will get him there. So I agree with that. I agree with that. We're about to wind it down. I mean, like I said, I think we kind of covered everything we need to cover.
Hey man, y'all better stop disrespecting the Blackhawks. They're on right now. They winning 2-1, man. Y'all
they out of the playoff.
So what, man? This is their last game. I mean, King just. I mean, it's the last.
You got to give the Blackhawks props. Alex DeBrincat is the number 2 goal scorer in the league behind the kid from Toronto, and they've done it without a Jonathan Taves, who we don't know. You know, is he going to play hockey again?
Is he ever going to come back? Right.
You know what I mean? Like Duncan Keith went down. They have a young talent, a young group that is phenomenal playing with Patrick Kane right now. At one point they were in the playoff hunt, and then they've had a bad luck. I think that's another team that if they get a legit goalie and they get a couple more pieces, Blackhawks can make noise next year. I've been watching Blackhawks. You know what I mean? And they've been playing well with the young talent they got right now. So,
I'll let y'all talk about that. You know what I'm saying? When we come back,
the Hawks can be a fun team, man. If you, like I said, I don't watch it as nearly as I watch like baseball or basketball, but I've checked out some Hawks games, man, and they have some explosiveness. Like you said, they got a great goalie, and who else? Who else in what recent dynasty won 3 out of 5 years? Come on, let's give the Blackhawks some props, man.
We'll give some props, man. But if we do a segment like that, you guys got to take the role of that. You know, so I just listen.
Don't diss the Blackhawks, man.
Yo, well, we about to wind it down right now, man. I mean, this is, like I said, this is 3 Drinks Present, Run TMC, Chicago Sports Talk with Marcus and Tim, man. It's good to have you guys on once again, man. We'll be back next week. We'll know if the Bulls be in the playing game and the playoff and everything, because this thing last week playing. They got 3 more games. We'll be done this week of seeing what's happening. What I'm gonna try to do is try to get Mac Peck on the line next week, next Monday, and see what's his thoughts process of what the Bulls should do if they, I mean, even if they make the playoff or not. I'm gonna try to bring him in next week, and then we could talk, shoot the mess with him as well. So once again, this Three Jerks presents Run TMC Sports Talk with Seb, Marcus, and Tim signing off.